Hey everybody, it's Tony Codispoti from Great Vocal Majority YouTube channel, website, and podcast. Well, today is a pretty messed up day because we've had a shooting in Washington, an attempted murder of a bunch of Republican congressmen uh, who were practicing for the congressional baseball game. Steve Scalise, who's the Republican whip, was shot, seriously wounded, and I think another congressman may have been shot, and several policemen and maybe some staffers were shot. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because this is really a very predictable consequence of the way liberals have been conducting themselves really for quite some time, long before President Trump became president. This really began during the Obama administration, where the rhetoric out of the political left in this country has turned violent. So it's really not all that surprising that now there actually is violence. In fact, this is not the first time. This is the first time political leaders have been targeted, but it's not the first time there's been violence. And it's been encouraged. It's been encouraged through the entertainment media and by some politicians and academics. And liberals need to be held accountable. This is really a problem. Now, people will say, well, Donald Trump has encouraged violence. And, that's really not, stop it already. Really stop it. And the reason why I'm not giving Trump a total pass, but I want to explain something about, it really frosts me when I hear people say that, because these are people that have never been to a political rally that say that. They don't understand what goes on. Back in 2009, there was a huge, like 1.5 million people at a Tea Party rally on the Mall in Washington, D.C., and I went there. And while I was there, the crowd it was like a church picnic. I mean, it was so peaceful and welcoming and open, and there wasn't really an anger in the crowd. I mean, there was upset with what the Obama agenda was, and federal spending and Obamacare and all that stuff. That was in the crowd. But I did notice that kind of milling through the crowd were these people who were not really there to protest as part of the Tea Party. They were there trying to antagonize people. And mostly pretty young, I would say, maybe just beyond college age people, and they were just trying to goad people, and nothing happened. Nothing came of it. But I noticed that, and I noticed at other rallies I went to subsequent to that first one, that there were more people like that going through the crowd and trying to start an altercation. And then when Trump started to run for president, I began to notice this was happening on a much larger scale than had ever happened with the Tea Party, where people were actually basically crashing the rally and going there to not just disrupt the rally by booing. I mean, that's happened forever, where people protest at a speech of a politician. That's always gone on. This was different. This was people walking through crowds trying to start a fight. And on a few occasions, they did. And people got punched, elbowed, whatever. And Trump made a comment from the podium about, get them out of here. They deserve it. They probably should get beat up or something like that. And the media ran with that. And they said, look, Trump's promoting violence. In the meantime, when Trump supporters are leaving these rallies, there are hordes of people waiting outside to beat some of them up. And did Trump encourage that too? I mean, it's crazy what the left has been doing. So there's been a violent streak. Now, it was also learned during the campaign by some undercover video that the people who were disrupting these Trump events and beating up people were actually hired by the Democratic Party. That's was part of their plan. Jan Schakowsky's husband. Jan Schakowsky is a congresswoman from Chicago. Her husband was the guy hiring these people. So the Democratic Party has engaged in violence. And so it's not surprising to me that, they continue to try to disrupt. Now, you go to college campuses. If you're a conservative speaker and you want to go to a college campus, you have to hope that the left doesn't actually have a riot where they start fires and smash windows and burn things or attack you. That's the left. Okay? And it's encouraged when publications like the Washington Post or the New York Times refer to President Trump as a racist, a Nazi, Hitler. I mean, come on. Hitler? When you cast your political opponents in that kind of light, what's going to happen is you're going to see violence, and it's only been a matter of time. Then you have, and it's gotten worse. You have Kathy Griffin with the beheaded mock head of Trump. That's a violent image. You have Shakespeare in the Park being portrayed as Donald Trump and Melania being stabbed to death, and the crowd is applauding in a standing ovation. This is the left. These are liberals in New York City standing up and applauding the brutal stabbing murder of a president. That's not good. And it's going to lead to someplace bad. And this morning it did. And liberals need to be held accountable because they're the ones that are promoting this. When Stephen Colbert goes on and doesn't use a violent image but a sexually explicit term to describe Donald Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin, I mean, we're entering a place now where violence is going to happen to politicians. Now, so far today, we know what's happened to Republicans. We don't know much about the gunman. We don't know anything about the gunman right now. We don't know what his motivations were. We're going to find those out, I'm sure. But this rhetoric coming out of the left that's leading to this has got to stop, and the people who use it must be held accountable. And what do I mean by holding them accountable? Well, if you're Kathy Griffin, you got to be done. You got to be done. You have to make amends. You don't just get to say, I'm sorry, and cry some crocodile tears and say Trump ruined my life and think it's over. No, you got to do more than that. You've got to actually do more than that. If you're Shakespeare in the Park, anyone who's supporting that, corporate sponsorship-wise, you have to be made to pay a price. That's got to be unacceptable. Look, when Barack Obama was president, Some obscure rodeo clown out west was banned from his job for life because he wore a Barack Obama mask. People were saying, oh, that's so racist. He wore a Barack Obama mask. But nobody ever inquired to find out that he actually used in the past a mask for Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. They never asked that. And this poor guy lost his job for life because of leftist stupidity and ignorance. Now, it's escalated from there. Now, we're being conditioned to think it's okay to do something like shoot Republicans. You know, the left really needs to be careful here. They really do. Because people who are conservatives are not going to be intimidated by this. And what you're going to find is that there are people on the right who can be just as unhinged as some idiot who brings a rifle to a baseball practice to try to kill every Republican he can find. That can happen the other way too. We don't want that in this country, do we? That would be very bad for everybody. You, me, liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, the country. Look, you have to love your country more than you hate your political opposition. That's all I'm asking for people to do. That's it for me. I'm Tony Codispoti from the Great Vocal Majority. Take care.